Now, we spend time talking about rhinos like Marjorie Trader Green, Rand Paul, Tom Tillis, John Cornyn, Mitch McConnell, and others who are nothing but a thorn in the MAGA movement and the America First movement. But we got to take time to give our flowers to the MAGA Republican senators that are in there, like Senator Eric Schmitt from Missouri. Now, you may or may not be familiar with him, because typically what gets these senators and Congress members of the House's names out there is when they're in Senate hearings or House hearings, and they say something or they confront a Democrat on something and it goes viral, or they're doing a press conference or an interview and a clip goes viral. That's what really helps their name get out there, because it's so many of them, and the legislation that they pass helps them get out there. Now, I did some research on Senator Schmitt just to see, is he somebody that's just there in the Senate, or is he somebody that's actually moving the needle and focused on America first? And real quick, because before I get into this, into these clips, because what you're going to see is Senator Schmitt went on with George Stephanopoulos on This Week in the Press, and he kicked his butt. And if you pay attention, when Republicans are going out now to do these interviews with these Democrat activists that just so happen to be anchors of these networks, they're going on the offensive, because for years, y'all know, it would be painful watching them on a CNN. MSDNC won't even have a conservative on. They take rhinos and fake Republicans, Democrats, people that was Democrats but couldn't win as Democrat in the area, so they ran Republican because there's so few of them, and they had a good shot in that district, but they're really liberals at heart. They'll have them on, because those are the ones that flip at the drop of a dime. Oh, Trump did this. Trump blew his nose too hard. Oh, I'm a Democrat now. But the ones we got that are rock solid, they need to get more recognition. So we're going to do that. You're going to see the clips of him going in there, beating the crap out of this man. And then after that, I'm going to show you some of the things that this man has done in the Senate, the legislation that he has sponsored himself or co-sponsored, where he wrote it with another senator. And I have to tell you, this man definitely is putting his effort where his mouth is. He is walking it like he's talking. But let's get off into this first clip where he just straight takes it to Stephanopoulos. Check this out.
In the Senate. And Senator, let me just begin where we left off with Congressman Smith. Do you support this pardon of the former Honduran president?
I'm not familiar with the facts or circumstances, but I think what's telling here is to try to imply that somehow President Trump is soft on drug smuggling is just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. He's provided border security like we've never seen before. And the fact is, these cartels now, because the southern border is closed, they've gone to the high seas. So President Trump is acting with his core Article 2 powers. No serious legal expert would doubt that the president has authority to blow narco terrorists out of the water who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year. If you watch the SEC championship game yesterday, the Big Ten championship game, combine those two stadiums with the number of people there, that's how many people are dying each and every year from the poison that's coming from these narco terrorists. So the fact is, George, President Trump has been delegated the authority by Congress to designate terrorist organizations. He's done that. He sent a letter to Congress saying he was going to initiate these strikes. We've had regular briefings about it, including from Secretary of State Rubio, including from the high-ranking officials in the Department of Defense. He's executing those. And so now what we have now are Democrats who have such X-ray vision and clairvoyance that they know the intentions of narco terrorists on boats, yet we're so blind to see that they had a president for 4 years that was operating as a vegetable in Joe Biden. So, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this isn't all about politics and trying to take out Secretary Hegseth. That's what this whole thing's been about, George. They didn't want him confirmed. They didn't want a realist in place. They didn't want to shift from their pet projects around the world and trying to build democracies in the sands of the Middle East by the barrel of a gun. We have core national interests at stake, the homeland in the Western Hemisphere, and the rise of China. That's what this administration is focused on. The Democrats are just upset about that, and they try to create some controversy each and every week, and it goes nowhere.
What do you mean you're not familiar with the facts and circumstances of the pardon? It's been well reported all across the country. He's the former president of Honduras. He was convicted of conspiring to bring in 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, also guns and other materials. It's been front page news across the country. Aren't you curious about that?
Well, I'm curious about your pushback on that particular point. With your previous guest, you had zero pushback because he's giving the Democrat talking points like you spew every single week, which is probably why your ratings are so bad. But to make the point, what I'm saying is that you're trying to divert here the attention from what the American people actually support. 75% of Americans support us blowing narco terrorists out of the water
in the Caribbean is how he finished. The clip got cut off by the person that presented it. But so one, he told him, that's why your ratings are so low, because the previous guest, Senator Smith, they did not push back on him at all. He was spewing the Democrat talking points, which is, the pardoning of this Honduran president, and how can he do it? But remember, the first initial news was Secretary of War Hegseth there was a kill everybody order. Well, that was debunked. Then the next thing was the strikes were illegal. They brought in Democrats and Republicans and let them watch the video, look at the evidence and the intelligence. And what most people don't realize is that when those types of orders are given, it's not just like it's Secretary Hegseth in there by himself or just him and the guy. There is at least between 8 and 12 lawyers, military lawyers, administrators, JAG officers that are in there that are advising him, hey, is this legal? Is that illegal? Here's the evidence we got. Are we justified or not? We not justified? So when these decisions are made, it's not just, flip a coin or pluck it out the air. And the Democrats know that. And if you notice, they've been on this thing where every week they've got something different. And you know why? If they keep the media and talking about something different every week, and they keep the people following down these rabbit holes, when I say the people, I'm meaning their voters. Their objective is for their voters not to hear about the great things that's happening around this country. Like the report today that gas nationally has dropped to under $3. Remember, previously it was $3. Now it's under $3, which Democrats and the economic experts said wouldn't happen. Just like how tariffs would destroy the country, didn't happen. They know these things wouldn't destroy the country. They know these things are good. But if they acknowledge it, especially on the airwaves or the TV, their viewers will see and hear it. And they need them raged out saying Trump doesn't care. That's their objective. So just be prepared. You're going to see a lot more of these things popping up. It was Epstein. You notice how once we found out that almost all Democrats were the ones in there, Democrats were taking them. We haven't heard anything about Epstein. If you're enjoying this video, do me a solid. Hit that thumbs up because I'll never ask you for a cash app, a donation, or a super chat. You just hitting that like button, it helps a great deal. And I really appreciate you for it. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, subscribe. And once you do, make sure you hit the notification bell, but select all because YouTube has issues with notifications. But when you select all, YouTube will make sure that you get notified when I or anyone else uploads new video. Then it was the strikes. Oh, it was kill everybody. Once that was disproven and exposed, the New York Times exposed that the Washington Post lied. Then it went to, there were civilians alive. And these Democrats are literally making excuses. Hey, we should have stopped those guys, got those drugs off and spoke to them to find out what's going on. Or I saw one Democrat congressman said, the guys on the boats, they're not really the shot callers. The shot callers are someplace else. Those guys on the boat, they're just making a living. So we should you're like, what? So they were fighting for the Maryland dad who was a woman beating El Salvadorian gang member. Now they're fighting for narco terrorists and they fight for illegal immigrants. These folks are insane. But check out this next clip.
75% of Americans support us blowing narco terrorists out of the water in the Caribbean who are trying to poison Americans. There's no real legal debate about the ability to do that. Now, you could have a policy discussion about it, which now you see the Democrats pivoting from the second strike and the war crimes allegation to really what this whole thing is about. Should we be doing it in the first place? I have way more sympathy for my friends, my cousins, my neighbors, those people who've been poisoned by these narco terrorists, people who've been skinned alive by these cartels that they bring people to the United States than I do for these narco terrorists. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So there's legal justification for it. He's doing it. We do have more of a focus on our interests now in the Western Hemisphere, and I'm thankful for that.
Do you support the pardon of the convicted drug smuggler or not?
George, like I said, what we're talking about here, the narco terrorists poisoning Americans. This attempt to try to focus on a pardon is classic because you've lost the debate now on the narco terrorist question. Because at the beginning of the week, you had Democrats actually on camera saying you should disobey orders. That's what Senator Kelly and Slotkin were saying. You should disobey orders. And then they went so far as to say that if you don't do that, you might get prosecuted down the road. It's hard to sort of overstate how problematic that is for the chain of command and what it is for our military. The Democrats had their shot at all this, and it was rejected. They wanted to have DEI struggle sessions in our military, transgender surgeries, recruitment was way down. The fact is, under President Trump and now Secretary Hegseth, recruitment is sky high, morale is sky high. They're upset about that because they had an agenda that said that America could be everywhere all at once all the time. Now we have a president that's a realist, focusing on core national interests, including protecting Americans from being poisoned by the narco terrorists.
Just to clarify, the Democrats you talked about were talking about illegal orders. They were specific about saying it was illegal orders that they were talking about.
Sure, but when you press them on what orders are they talking about, they had no answer, except to say that somehow they should be guessing along the way. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And this is kind of the rabbit hole of Trump derangement syndrome, is that they can't let this thing go. They can't believe that he won. They didn't want Hegseth to be the Secretary of War. They fought it. He was their number one target. They failed at that. And so now you just have a series of issues that come up every week to try to undermine this president and the Secretary of War. And it's not working. They're going to carry out their mission. They executed another strike of a narco-terrorist just this past week. Those will continue, and they're completely authorized. I reviewed the 40-plus page memo by the Office of Legal Counsel. There's JAG officers in these rooms, George, every time there's a strike. So again, the narrative at the beginning of the week that this is war crimes, that's clearly fallen away, and now the Democrats are peddling another lie. We have
and he's right. Right now is the open enrollment period for healthcare, which is why I want to take a moment to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video and partner of the channel, Chapter. Chapter is helping seniors right now who are confused. Some are just new to having to get Medicare. Others who already have Medicare but want to make sure they got the best Medicare plans available. I highly encourage you to reach out to Chapter. Chapter has highly skilled, unbiased agents that are helping seniors make sure that they've got the best Medicare plans available, because it sucks to find out your prescriptions are no longer covered and your doctor is no longer in network on the plan you currently have. The phone call is absolutely free, and it could go as quick as 20 minutes. In less than 20 minutes, you can find out to make sure you got the best Medicare plan available. And the great news about it is that Chapter has been helping seniors save as much as $1,100 a year, making sure they have the best Medicare plan. So I'm sure you can find something to do with an extra $1,100 in your pocket. So don't waste time. It's extremely important to protect yourself and protect your health. So give Chapter a call or follow the website at askchapter.org/realpolitics and make sure you've got the best Medicare plans available. Just like I said earlier, they're going to keep jumping around because they've thrown it against the wall. Nothing's sticking. Their numbers are in the toilet. Trump's policies are working. And man, it's only been 10 months. That's why when I see people that are quote unquote Republicans or MAGA supporters that sound like Democrats, why haven't the prices dropped? Why haven't this? Why hasn't anybody been locked up? And you're like, dude, you see this man fighting against the radical left on TV, the radical left in courtrooms, the radical left on the street, and the radical left globally. So with that onslaught of all of these attacks on him, on the party, he's still doing monumental things. Secured the border, struck Iran's nuclear capabilities, got the economy stabilizing, inflation down to like 2.5. And one thing about inflation that people don't realize, it's not like when inflation goes up and you get it under control, that means prices can drop to what they were prior to inflation. That's not how it works. What happens is inflation goes up, boom, the objective is to get it down, because all inflation means is that prices are growing faster than wages are growing. So inflation is where prices outmatch wages. That's what it is. So when Biden them did that, it's not like if a bag of chips was $2 before Biden's historic 9.2% inflation, that Trump is going to do something and get them back down to $2. What he can do is if they went up to 280, he can stabilize it where they don't go any higher than 280. And maybe with the right amount of tariffs and minimization of taxing, they may be able to reduce it down to 275 or something like that. That's how that works. Now, I'm not an economist, and if somebody is and has more knowledge on that than I do, please put it in the comments and educate us all. But I just get tired of the complainers. Now, check out this last part of the interview where, again, he's going to smoke him some more. Check this out.
Another lie.
You mentioned Secretary Hegseth. Here's a quote from the Department of Defense Inspector General report on that release of sensitive information over the Signal app. According to the Inspector General, the Secretary sent information identifying the quantity and strike times of manned U.S. aircraft over hostile territory over an unapproved, unsecured network approximately 2 to 4 hours before the execution of those strikes. The Secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots. Isn't that a concern?
I reviewed the IG report, and it's a nothing burger. The fact is there was allegations that this was confidential or classified information, I should say. It wasn't. There was no operational integrity problems. That Operation Rough Rider was executed flawlessly. So was, by the way, Midnight Hammer. So you can't really call that into a question. There's no confidential or classified information that was disclosed. And again, I think the bigger concern that you didn't have a hue and cry about from the Democrats was when Secretary Lloyd Austin went in for a medical procedure, was incapacitated, and didn't tell the president. Literally, we had a Secretary of Defense that wasn't on duty and nobody knew about it. Like, that's a real problem. This was a nothing burger, and that's what the IG report that I read last week and the skiff indicated.
It said it was a risk to operational security.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. There was no. Listen, remember when the scandal, so-called scandal, started, it was about classified information being disclosed. It wasn't classified information. So again, you pivot to this sort of sensitive information, but there was no risk. There was no risk. And by the way, I'll point out, Signal is approved by the US government for communications. And so if you want to have a broader discussion about that, we probably can. But I think the bigger issue was, in the previous administration, you had real operational risk. You had a department, you had a Secretary of Defense that was incapacitated in a surgery and nobody knew about it for days. That's a problem.
Senator, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love it. Senator Schmitt went on there and brought it on the offensive. When have you ever seen George Stephanopoulos talk that little? Because what could he debate? It's like he was saying, listen, y'all are talking about this Honduran president getting off, and all y'all are doing is pivoting. The real thing that y'all were complaining about was this whole strike, the kill orders. Then the next thing was the survivors hanging off the boat. Was it legal war crimes? And the sad thing about it is they make these loud noises and put that information out. Then when it's corrected and they acknowledge that they were wrong, they go to their third or fourth tier social media page, meaning the network has a major page that on X, on Facebook, that's got the millions of followers. Then they may have a second one that's, post pictures rather than video clips. Then they have a third one. And then on that fourth one that might have the least amount of subscribers on it, 50,000 subscribers, they'll go and make the correction on that. And why am I saying that? Because ABC and CBS and CNN have all done it. That's what they do. So legally, they can say, well, we corrected that. But yeah, they corrected it in a way that nobody would know it unless you're somebody that's a hardcore committed person to political news to find it, like I am. But I wanted to bring you this to show you. Please stand strong and stand firm. Our Republican Party is not going anywhere. And America is doing great. As a matter of fact, Dave Ramsey just came out and said he's got to admit it. Trump did his thing, and everything, all the forecasts that they're looking at for the future going into the new year, going into next year and past that, looks absolutely optimistic. So we got to ride this train while it's going fast, going hard, and going home, which is the golden age, America First movement, the Make America Great movement, MAGA. What you are, what I am. And the fact is, if you stayed and you watched this video up to this point, I want to thank you from the top and bottom of my heart. I really do appreciate you for that. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't, hit that like button. But most importantly, I want you to stay safe and you be great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.